Silence isn't empty. Silence is pressure. Silence is the space where weak people expose themselves and strong people take control. Every word you speak too early gives away leverage. Every reaction you rush into hands power to someone else. This audiobook will teach you how to withhold, wait, and watch until others reveal their intentions, their insecurity, and their mistakes. You don't win by talking more. You win by speaking last. This is not about being quiet. This is about strategic silence. And once you master it, you will never be controlled again.
Silence is not the absence of power. Silence is power. Most people don't understand this. They think silence means fear. They think silence means uncertainty. They think silence means you have nothing to say. That misunderstanding is exactly why silence works. Silence creates imbalance, and imbalance makes people uncomfortable. When people don't know where they stand with you, their mind starts working against them. They replay conversations. They second-guess their words. They wonder if they said too much. They wonder if they said the wrong thing. They wonder what you're thinking. That discomfort is leverage. You see, human beings crave certainty. They want feedback. They want reassurance. They want reactions. They want to know if they are approved, accepted, or rejected. When you deny them that clarity, pressure builds. And here is the rule you must tattoo into your thinking. The one who needs clarity first is the one with less power. That's the key. Power does not rush to explain itself. Power does not rush to respond. Power does not rush to soothe other people's anxiety. Weakness does. You have a choice. You can speak to relieve their discomfort, or you can stay silent and increase your leverage. Most people talk because silence makes them uncomfortable. They speak to fill the gap. They speak to be liked. They speak to be understood. They speak to prove they matter. That's not confidence. That's nervous energy leaking out of the mouth. It's not about being rude. It's not about being cold. It's not about playing games. It's about discipline. It's not about fear. It's about control. Silence is control. When you speak too quickly, you give information away. When you explain too much, you give your position away. When you react immediately, you give emotional access away. And access is power. Every unnecessary word hands leverage to the other person. Every rushed response tells them you care more than they do. Every explanation says, I need you to understand me. You don't need their permission. You don't need their validation. You don't need their approval. Strong people let silence do the heavy lifting. Look at any serious negotiator. When the offer is placed on the table, they don't rush to respond. They don't argue. They don't justify. They pause. And that pause feels like pressure. The other side starts talking. They add incentives. They soften terms. They explain themselves. Why? Because whoever talks first loses. Say it again. Whoever talks first loses. Silence forces the other person to reveal their position. Silence forces them to expose their urgency. Silence forces them to show their insecurity. You have a choice. You can be the one scrambling to be understood, or you can be the one being studied. Silence flips the dynamic. Most people are trained to believe that being assertive means being loud, that leadership means speaking constantly, that confidence means having an answer for everything. That's wrong. Real confidence is restraint. Real authority is calm. Real power doesn't chase the moment, it waits. When you stay silent, people project their fears onto you. They assume you're confident. They assume you're evaluating. They assume you're unimpressed. They assume you have options. That assumption works in your favor. And here's the uncomfortable truth most people avoid. The world respects what it can't easily read. Mystery creates gravity. Noise destroys it. You don't need to announce your strength. You don't need to explain your thinking. You don't need to defend your position. Silence says, "I'm not moved." Silence says, "I'm not rushed." Silence says, "I'm in control." And control is felt instantly. Now listen carefully. Silence is not passive. Silence is active restraint. You are not freezing, you are choosing. You are choosing not to react emotionally. You are choosing not to leak information. You are choosing not to play on someone else's timeline. That's the key. The moment you realize silence is leverage, you stop fearing it. You stop filling gaps with unnecessary words. You stop responding just to be polite. You stop explaining yourself to people who haven't earned access. It's not about being liked, it's about being respected. And respect comes from boundaries. Silence is a boundary. When someone challenges you and you don't immediately defend yourself, you send a message, "I don't need to prove anything." When someone provokes you and you don't react, you send a message, "You don't control me." When someone pressures you for an answer and you pause, you send a message, "I decide when." You have a choice. Speak to release tension or stay silent and increase leverage. Most people choose relief. Strong people choose power. And let's be clear, silence doesn't mean you never speak. It means you speak on purpose. It means when you do speak, your words land heavier. It means your statements feel final. It means people listen because they're not used to hearing you talk. Scarcity creates value. That applies to words too. If you speak all the time, your voice blends into noise. If you speak selectively, your voice becomes signal. That's not ego, that's strategy. And strategy wins long term. So starting now, pay attention to your impulses. Notice how often you feel the urge to explain yourself. Notice how often you rush to respond. Notice how often you speak just to avoid silence. That urge is weakness trying to escape. Don't feed it. Pause. Breathe. Let the silence stretch. Let the other person move first, because whoever talks first loses. Say it again. Whoever talks first loses. This chapter is your foundation. Without this, nothing else works. Silence is the base layer of authority. It is the soil from which confidence grows. Master this, and people start adjusting to you. Ignore this, and you'll keep giving power away without realizing it. You've learned that silence isn't weakness, it's leverage. You've learned that imbalance creates pressure, and pressure reveals truth. Now that you understand how silence gives you power, it's time to remove the biggest way people destroy that power. You mastered the leverage. Now let's eliminate the leak.
Most people don't lose power because they say the wrong thing. They lose power because they say too much. They explain, they justify, they defend. And every explanation is a confession. Over-explaining is not clarity. Over-explaining is insecurity trying to sound reasonable. That's the key. When you feel the urge to explain yourself, pause. Ask one question. Am I clarifying facts, or am I trying to be accepted? Because those are not the same thing. Powerful people don't narrate their decisions. They don't hold press conferences for every choice. They state once and let silence enforce it. No explanation is an explanation. Say it again. No explanation is an explanation. You have a choice. You can speak to convince, or you can speak to declare. Convincing puts you below the listener.
Declaring puts you above the conversation. Most people explain because they fear misunderstanding. They fear judgment. They fear being seen as wrong, rude, or selfish. So they pile on reasons, they stack logic, they soften their words. That's not communication. That's negotiation for approval. You don't need their permission. You don't need their agreement. You don't need them to like your decision. It's not about being right. It's about being grounded. Every time you explain, you invite debate. Every time you justify, you open the door to objections. Every time you defend, you signal uncertainty. And uncertainty weakens authority. Look at how leaders speak when they're confident. Short sentences, clear statements, no excess, no apology tour. I've decided. This is the direction. That's not an option. Then silence. That silence does more work than 10 explanations ever could. Because silence tells the room, this is settled. People respect what feels settled. Now listen carefully. There are moments when explanation is appropriate. Teaching, training, mentoring, that's different. That's deliberate. But what you must eliminate is reactive explaining. Reactive explaining happens when someone challenges you and you rush to justify yourself. When someone questions your boundary and you feel the need to defend it. When someone pushes back and you over-talk. That's insecurity leaking. That's the habit you're here to break. You have a choice. You can answer every question, or you can let your decision stand. When someone says, "Why would you do that?" you don't owe them a speech. When someone says, "I don't understand," that doesn't mean you failed. When someone disagrees, that doesn't mean you need to fix it. No explanation is an explanation. Silence says, "I'm comfortable with this." Silence says, "I don't need consensus." Silence says, "Your confusion is not my emergency." That's the key. Over-explaining trains people to push you. They learn that if they apply pressure, you'll cave into clarity. They learn that boundaries are negotiable. They learn that you can be talked into doubt. Silence retrains them. When you stop explaining, people adjust. They may resist at first. They may push harder. That's normal. That's conditioning breaking. Hold the line. This is where discipline matters. It's not about politeness, it's about self-respect. Powerful people respect their own decisions first, others follow. And here's something most people don't realize. Explanations don't make people respect you more. They make people feel equal to you. And sometimes that's exactly what destroys your position. You don't need to be above people in value, but you must be solid in your stance. Silence solidifies stance. Now let's get practical. Starting today, remove these habits. Stop explaining your no. Stop justifying your boundaries. Stop narrating your choices. Replace them with this structure. State once, pause, silence. If clarification is genuinely required, keep it factual. One sentence, no emotion, no defense. That's the discipline. Notice how uncomfortable it feels at first. That discomfort is withdrawal. You're detoxing from approval addiction. Sit with it. Breathe. Let the silence do its work. Because silence exposes something important. Most people don't want understanding. They want control. When you stop explaining, the control attempt fails. And here's the paradox. When you stop trying to be understood, people start taking you more seriously. That's the key. Your energy shifts, your presence shifts, your words land differently. Because now, when you speak, it's intentional. And when you don't speak, it's decisive. Remember this. Weakness over-explains. Strength stands still. You have a choice. You can keep performing for validation, or you can start operating from certainty. You don't need their permission. You don't need their agreement. You don't need them to like your decision. It's not about being right. It's about being grounded. No explanation is an explanation. Say it again. No explanation
is an explanation. This chapter strips away one of the biggest leaks of power, but silence doesn't just protect you, it reveals others. Because when you stop explaining, something interesting happens. The other person starts talking. They fill the space, they expose their motives, they show their insecurity. And that's where the real advantage begins. You've learned how to stop leaking power through explanation. Now it's time to let silence do the work for you. You've removed the noise.
Silence doesn't just protect you. Silence exposes them. Most people think silence is empty. It isn't. Silence is a vacuum, and human beings can't stand a vacuum. They rush to fill it. They talk, they explain, they confess. That's the key. When you stay silent, the other person's mind starts racing. They assume the silence means judgment, or disagreement, or disappointment, or dominance. They don't know which, so they start talking to relieve the pressure. And in that talking, they reveal everything. The void forces truth. Say it again. The void forces truth. You have a choice. You can rescue people from discomfort, or you can let discomfort do the work for you. Most people are addicted to smoothing things over. They rush to reassure. They rush to respond. They rush to close the gap. That instinct is weakness disguised as kindness. It's not about being nice, it's about being disciplined. Negotiators understand this. After an offer is made, they go quiet. They don't justify the number. They don't sweeten the deal. They don't explain the logic. They wait. And waiting creates pressure. The other side starts negotiating against themselves. They add concessions. They volunteer information. They reveal urgency. Why? Because the void forces truth. Interrogators know this too. They ask one question and then stop talking. They don't rush the silence. They let it stretch. The suspect starts filling the gap. They overtalk. They contradict themselves. They reveal stress points. Leaders use this as well. They ask a direct question in a meeting. Then they go quiet. No saving, no prompting, no help. And watch what happens. The room starts shifting. People speak out of turn. They over-explain. They expose competence or lack of it. Silence separates strength from performance. Now understand this clearly. The void is uncomfortable, but it is productive. When you interrupt silence, you interrupt truth. You have a choice. You can talk to feel better, or you can wait to learn more. Every time you rush to fill silence, you give up information. Every time you stay quiet, you gain it. That's the key. Silence turns the spotlight outward. When you talk, people study you. When you're silent, people reveal themselves. Think about how often you answer questions that were never fully asked, how often you add context nobody demanded, how often you volunteer details to avoid awkwardness. That's not communication, that's anxiety management, and it's costing you leverage. It's not about awkwardness, it's about awareness. The moment you become comfortable with silence, the dynamic shifts. People feel it, they sense it, they adjust. Because silence creates uncertainty, and uncertainty makes people honest. Not honest in a moral sense, honest in a behavioral sense. They show their cards. Now let's get practical. Here's the discipline you must train. When someone finishes speaking, pause. 2 seconds, sometimes 3. Don't rush, don't fill, don't save them. Let the silence sit. If they had more to say, they'll say it. And when they do, pay attention. That extra information is usually the truth they weren't planning to reveal. The void forces truth. In disagreements, this is critical. When someone accuses you, challenges you, or questions your intent, don't jump in. Silence does 3 things. First, it prevents emotional leakage. Second, it forces them to elaborate. Third,
It gives you time to choose your response. You have a choice: react emotionally or respond strategically. That's the key. Silence is not freezing. Silence is positioning, and positioning determines outcomes. Notice how insecure people respond to silence. They get nervous, they overcompensate, they fill space with noise, they talk in circles. Confident people don't fear silence, they respect it. And when you respect silence, others start respecting you, because silence signals self-control. It's not about being quiet, it's about being unmovable. Now, here's the hardest part for most people. You must resist the urge to correct immediately, to clarify immediately, to defend immediately. That urge is ego wanting control. Let it pass. Let the silence stretch, because the longer the void remains, the more pressure builds, and pressure produces truth. This is why silence is so powerful in leadership. When you don't rush to solve problems, others step up, or they expose that they can't. Either way, you win clarity. When you rush to fill every gap, you train dependency. When you allow silence, you train responsibility. That's the key. Silence also reveals alignment. When you stop talking, you see who supports you without prompting, who steps forward without reassurance, who disappears when attention isn't guaranteed. That information is priceless, and most people talk right over it. You don't need their permission to pause. You don't need their approval to be silent. You don't need to explain why you're waiting. Silence is your right. Remember this: noise is a mask, silence is a mirror, and mirrors don't lie. So starting now, practice this discipline daily. In conversations, pause before responding. In negotiations, let silence follow your statement. In conflict, let the other person speak themselves into clarity. Don't interrupt the process. Let the void work, because the void forces truth. Say it again: the void forces truth. This chapter taught you how silence turns into intelligence. It's not just about withholding words, it's about collecting information. You've learned how to let others reveal themselves. Now it's time to protect yourself from the biggest trap that breaks this power. Because once people realize silence affects them, they'll try to provoke you. They'll poke, they'll pressure, they'll push for a reaction. And if you fall for it, you lose everything you gained. You've mastered the void. Now you must master yourself.
Every reaction you give is a signal. Not a signal of strength, a signal of access. When someone can make you react, they can move you. When they can move you, they can control you. That's the key. Emotional reactions are not harmless. They are handles. And once someone has a handle on you, they don't need power. They just need timing. Think about it. If someone knows exactly what triggers you, they don't need to argue. They don't need logic. They just press the button. Anger, defensiveness, urgency, guilt. Press, and you respond. That response is not freedom. That response is programming. No reaction, no control. Say it again. No reaction, no control. You have a choice. You can react automatically, or you can pause and choose your response. Most people react because they think reaction equals honesty. They believe that showing emotion proves authenticity. That's false. Uncontrolled emotion is not authenticity. It's exposure. It's not about expressing feelings, it's about governing them. Silence is how you break manipulation cycles instantly. Manipulation requires feedback. It needs confirmation that the hook worked. When you go silent, the manipulator loses data. They don't know if they succeeded. And uncertainty terrifies manipulators. So they escalate. They push harder. They provoke more. They get louder. That's when weak people crack. Strong people don't. They let the storm burn itself out. Silence doesn't argue.
Silence doesn't defend. Silence doesn't justify. Silence ends the game. That's the key. Look at how children test boundaries. They provoke. They watch reactions. If they get one, they repeat the behavior. No reaction, the behavior dies. Adults are no different. They just use bigger words. When you react emotionally, you reward the behavior. When you stay silent, you starve it. No reaction, no control. This applies everywhere. In relationships, in business, in leadership, online, in conflict. If someone insults you and you react, they win. If someone pressures you and you cave, they win. If someone rushes you and you comply, they win. You have a choice. You can be predictable or you can be unmovable. Predictable people are easy to manipulate. Unmovable people are respected. Now here's the discipline you must train. Between stimulus and response, insert silence. 1 breath, 2 breaths. That pause is power. That pause breaks the chain. Most people never pause. They let emotion drive. They speak while heated. They act while triggered. They decide while unstable. That's not courage. That's loss of control. It's not about strength. It's about stability. Silence stabilizes you, and stability makes you dangerous, in the best sense, because now you choose when to engage. You don't need their permission to pause. You don't need their approval to stay quiet. You don't owe anyone immediate access to your emotions. When someone tries to provoke you, don't respond to the content. Respond to the timing. Meaning, don't respond now. Delay is a weapon. When you don't react immediately, you reclaim authority over the moment. You force the other person to sit with their behavior, and that discomfort exposes them. That's the key. Silence turns emotional traps into self-inflicted wounds. Now let's talk about real-world application. When someone sends a hostile message, don't reply instantly. When someone raises their voice, lower yours or say nothing. When someone tries to rush a decision, pause. This isn't avoidance. This is command. You're not ignoring, you're choosing. And choice is power. No reaction, no control. Say it again. No reaction, no control. Here's what happens when you master this. People stop trying to manipulate you. They learn it doesn't work. They adjust their behavior or they leave. Either outcome is a win. Because the goal isn't to dominate people. The goal is to dominate yourself. It's not about winning arguments. It's about maintaining position. Every emotional reaction costs you position. Every calm pause strengthens it. And here's the truth most people avoid. The calmer you become, the more others reveal their instability. Silence is a mirror. If someone gets louder when you get quieter, you've already won. Because composure outranks aggression. That's the key. You're building something here. Not just silence, not just restraint. You're building presence. Presence is what people feel before you say a word. And presence cannot be faked. It is earned through discipline. So train this daily. Notice your triggers. Pause when they're pressed. Choose silence before speech. Not forever, not passively, but strategically. Because when you finally speak, it will be on your terms. And that's when words carry weight. You've learned how to break manipulation by refusing to react. You've reclaimed control of your inner world. Now it's time to sharpen the next edge. Because silence doesn't just protect you from manipulation, it makes you matter more when you do speak. You've stopped reacting. Now, let's talk about impact.
The world doesn't reward noise. It rewards signal. Most people talk constantly and wonder why no one listens. They flood conversations with opinions, stories, explanations, and updates, then complain that they're overlooked. That's not bad luck. That's dilution. Scarcity increases value. That applies to money.
That applies to time, and it applies to words. Fewer words, heavier impact. That's the key. When you speak less, people lean in. When you speak all the time, people tune out. This isn't personal, it's psychological. The human brain filters repetition. Constant noise fades into the background. Silence, on the other hand, resets attention. You have a choice. You can be constantly heard, or you can be listened to. Most people confuse the two. They think speaking more means contributing more. They think filling every gap proves engagement. They think being vocal equals being valuable. It doesn't. It's not about volume, it's about precision. The quiet voice carries more weight because it's rare. When you don't speak often, your words feel intentional, measured, final. People assume you're thinking before you speak, because you are. And that assumption elevates your presence. You don't need their permission to stay quiet. You don't need approval to hold your words. You don't need to perform intelligence verbally. Competence shows up in restraint. Now listen closely. Every time you speak, you're making a trade. You're trading attention for words. If your words aren't worth the attention, the exchange fails. Silence protects your exchange rate. That's the key. Look at powerful people in any room. They don't dominate airtime, they dominate timing. They wait, they observe, and when they speak, the room shifts. Why? Because people have been waiting for their voice. Contrast that with someone who speaks constantly. Their voice becomes furniture, always there, never noticed. You have a choice. Be furniture or be the interruption. Fewer words, heavier impact. This chapter is about discipline, not personality. You don't need to become quiet by nature. You need to become quiet by choice. Silence isn't who you are. Silence is what you use. Now let's talk about behavior. Starting today, reduce your verbal output by half. Half the comments, half the explanations, half the opinions. Not because your thoughts aren't valuable, but because value increases with restraint. Before you speak, ask one question. Does this move the conversation forward? If it doesn't, don't say it. That's the discipline. It's not about being silent, it's about being selective. Selectivity creates authority. People don't question the person who speaks rarely. They assume weight. They assume intent. They assume competence. Silence does the framing for you. And here's something most people don't realize. When you speak less, people attribute your silence to confidence, not confusion. They assume you're calm because you're certain. That assumption works in your favor. Now, understand this. Talking too much is usually driven by one thing: fear. Fear of being irrelevant. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of being invisible. Silence requires courage, because silence risks being overlooked. But here's the paradox. The more comfortable you become with silence, the more visible you become when it counts. That's the key. Silence creates contrast, and contrast creates impact. Now, let's apply this in real situations. In meetings, don't rush to speak first. Observe. Let others exhaust their points. Then speak once, clearly. In arguments, stop repeating yourself. Say it once, then stop. Repetition weakens authority. In leadership, stop narrating your thinking. Announce decisions, not deliberations. Fewer words, heavier impact. Say it again. Fewer words, heavier impact. Notice what happens when you do this. People stop interrupting you. People wait for your opinion. People quote what you say. Not because you demanded respect, but because you earned it through restraint. You don't need their permission to be taken seriously. You don't need validation to be valuable. You need discipline. It's not about being loud. It's about being undeniable. And here's the final shift you must make. Stop using words to manage anxiety. Silence isn't awkward unless you make it awkward.
Silence isn't empty unless you fear it. Own the pause. Own the stillness. Let others rush. Let others overtalk. Let others reveal insecurity. You remain grounded. Because grounded people don't scramble for airtime. They wait, and waiting multiplies weight. This chapter sharpened your presence. It taught you how to compress your words so they hit harder. You've learned that silence doesn't make you smaller, it makes you denser. Now it's time to apply this discipline under pressure. Because silence is easy when things are calm. The real test comes when you're challenged. You've learned to speak less. Now you must learn to stay silent when it's hardest.
Provocation is not an accident. It's a strategy. Provokers are not interested in truth. They are not interested in logic. They are not interested in resolution. They want your reaction. They want the emotional leak. That's the key. The moment you react emotionally, the provoker wins. They don't need to be right. They don't need facts. They just need access. And emotional access gives them control. Calm is dominance. Say it again. Calm is dominance. You have a choice. You can defend your ego, or you can defend your position. Most people choose ego. They argue, they explain, they escalate, they try to prove something. That's not strength, that's bait-taking. It's not about winning the argument, it's about maintaining control. Provokers rely on speed. They want to pull you into their emotional tempo, fast, heated, chaotic. Silence breaks that tempo. When you don't respond, the provoker loses rhythm. They expected a fight. They get nothing. That absence destabilizes them, because now they're alone with their aggression, and aggression without resistance collapses. That's the key. Silence doesn't just frustrate aggressors, it exposes them. When you stay calm, their behavior looks exaggerated, immature, unhinged. The contrast works in your favor. Calm creates moral high ground without saying a word. You don't need their permission to stay calm. You don't need approval to refuse the bait. You don't need to explain why you're not engaging. Silence is your answer. Now understand this clearly. Silence under provocation is not weakness. It is restraint under fire. Anyone can stay calm when things are easy. The discipline shows when you're attacked, mocked, rushed, or disrespected. That's where dominance is decided. Calm is dominance. Provokers often escalate when silence appears. They raise their voice, they insult, they repeat themselves. That escalation is a sign of loss, not power. They're trying to force a reaction. Don't give it. You have a choice. You can match their energy, or you can let their energy burn itself out. Fire dies without oxygen. Silence removes oxygen. That's the key. Now let's get practical. When someone insults you, don't defend your character. Pause. Look at them. Say nothing. When someone pressures you, don't rush to respond. Slow everything down. When someone mocks you, don't counterattack. Let the silence hang. This isn't avoidance, this is control. It's not about fear, it's about discipline. Silence forces aggressors to confront themselves. They either back down, double down, or expose insecurity. Every outcome gives you information, and information is power. Now here's an important distinction. Silence is not permanent submission. Silence is timing. You're not refusing to speak forever. You're choosing when to speak. And when you finally do, your words cut clean. Because they come from calm, not emotion. That's dominance. Notice how truly confident people respond to disrespect. They don't rush. They don't bark. They don't posture. They pause.
That pause says, "I'm not threatened." And nothing intimidates an aggressor more than someone who isn't threatened. Calm is dominance. Say it again. Calm is dominance. This applies in leadership as well. When someone challenges you publicly, don't snap back. Let the room feel the tension. Let others notice the imbalance. Silence reframes the challenger as unstable and you as composed. That's the key. Silence also protects your reputation. When you don't react, people can't quote you out of context. They can't use your words against you. They can't drag you into mess. Noise creates liabilities. Silence eliminates them. You don't need their permission to protect your name. You don't need validation to preserve your composure. Now let's address the fear. Many people think silence makes them look weak. They worry it looks like surrender. That fear is ego talking. In reality, calm silence reads as confidence. Emotional reaction reads as insecurity. People trust stability. They follow it. They defer to it. That's why calm leaders rise. So train this. When provoked, breathe before speaking. Lower your voice, or don't speak at all. Slow your movements. Your body language must match your silence, because calm isn't just absence of words, it's presence of control. It's not about being passive, it's about being unshakable. This chapter hardens your inner frame. It teaches you how to remain composed when others try to knock you off balance. You've learned that provokers don't want truth, they want reaction. And now you know how to deny them both. You've learned to stay calm under fire. Now it's time to weaponize time itself. Because silence doesn't just neutralize aggression, it creates authority when you delay. You mastered provocation. Now let's talk about timing.
Speed is not strength. Speed is exposure. Most people respond immediately and call it efficiency. In reality, it's anxiety dressed up as productivity. Immediate replies don't signal competence. They signal neediness. That's the key. When you answer instantly, you tell the world you're waiting, watching, available, on call. Power is never on call. Power decides when. Delay is discipline. Say it again. Delay is discipline. You have a choice. You can reply instantly to feel important, or you can respond deliberately to maintain authority. Time creates space. Space creates clarity. Clarity creates control. And control is what people feel. You don't need their permission to take time. You don't need approval to pause before responding. You don't owe anyone instant access to your attention. It's not about being slow. It's about being intentional. The delayed response does three things immediately. First, it lowers emotional temperature. Second, it gives you time to think. Third, it shifts the power dynamic. Because now you're not reacting, you're choosing. That's the key. Think about how people with real leverage operate. They don't rush to respond to messages. They don't jump at every request. They don't let urgency dictate their behavior. They let time work for them. And time works on people. When someone sends a message and you don't respond right away, they start imagining reasons. You're busy. You're evaluating. You're not impressed. You're not desperate. That uncertainty increases your perceived value. Scarcity applies to attention too. Delay is discipline. Now understand this clearly. Delayed response is not ghosting. It's not avoidance. It's not passive aggression. It's self-command. You're managing your energy, not theirs. Most people reply fast because they fear missing out. They fear being forgotten. They fear losing the moment. That fear makes them predictable. Predictability is the enemy of authority. It's not about availability, it's about boundaries. Now let's talk about real-world application.
In messages, stop responding instantly. Let minutes or even hours pass when appropriate. In negotiations, never answer an offer immediately. Time forces the other side to think. In conflict, delay your response until emotion settles. Calm beats speed. You have a choice: react fast and regret later, or wait and respond cleanly. That's the key. The delayed response also protects you from manipulation. When someone tries to rush you, they're trying to control your timeline. Silence breaks that attempt. When you don't move on their clock, you reclaim the frame. You don't need their permission to slow things down. You don't need validation to take your time. And here's the truth most people miss. Urgency is often artificial. People rush you because they're afraid you'll think. Delay removes that advantage. Delay is discipline. Say it again. Delay is discipline. Time also adds weight to your words. When you respond after a pause, your message feels considered, measured, serious. Fast replies feel casual, disposable, emotional. Slow replies feel intentional. That perception matters. Now train this discipline. Before responding to anything important, wait. Read it again. Breathe. Then decide. You're not obligated to mirror someone else's pace. It's not about courtesy. It's about composure. And composure is contagious. When you slow down, others slow down. When you remain calm, others adjust. Silence sets tempo. That's the key. But be warned, when you start delaying responses, some people will test you. They'll send follow-ups, question marks, pressure. That pressure is proof the tactic is working. Hold the line, because the moment you cave, you teach them how to rush you again. Discipline only works when it's consistent. Now understand this. Delayed response is not about winning games. It's about protecting your attention. Attention is your most valuable asset. Give it away freely and people waste it. Guard it and people respect it. You don't need their permission to guard your time. You don't need approval to prioritize yourself. This chapter teaches you to break the addiction to immediacy, to stop living reactively, to stop being pulled into other people's urgency, because silence plus time equals authority. You've learned to slow down your responses. Now it's time to apply that silence where it matters most, because some situations demand more than delay. They demand stillness. You've mastered timing. Now let's talk about conflict.
Conflict is a stage. Most people act like performers. They raise their voices, wave their hands, repeat points, and try to dominate the room. They think loudness equals authority. It doesn't. Loudness escalates. Silence commands. That's the key. You have a choice. You can join the noise, or you can stand apart. When everyone is shouting, the calm person becomes the authority. The calm person becomes the anchor. The calm person sets the tone. Stillness leads. Say it again. Stillness leads. Conflict is a test of self-control. It's a test of presence. It's a test of patience. When you react emotionally, you hand over control. When you shout, you invite escalation. When you argue point by point, you reinforce their urgency. You don't need their permission to stay composed. You don't need approval to maintain silence. You don't need to explain why you're not reacting. It's not about being passive, it's about being strategic. Let me be clear, silence in conflict is not avoidance. It's a tool, it's a weapon, it's a method to shift power. When the room heats up, breathe, pause, observe. Notice the patterns, notice the overstatements, notice the insecurities showing through their words. Because everyone reveals themselves under pressure. Stillness leads. Now here's how you apply this in real life. First, never match volume with volume.
Loudness only legitimizes loudness. You don't need to scream to prove a point. Second, control timing. Pause before responding. Let others finish. Let tension build. Third, use minimal words. One well-chosen sentence is worth 10 shouted arguments. Keep it precise, keep it deliberate. Most people panic in conflict because they think silence equals weakness. It doesn't. Silence equals authority. You have a choice. React impulsively and feed chaos, or respond deliberately and command the room. That's the key. Conflict is also a mirror. It shows who's insecure. It shows who's manipulative. It shows who lacks self-control. When you remain silent, the mirror flips. The insecure, the manipulative, the impulsive, they reveal themselves first. You gain insight. You gain control. You gain leverage. Stillness leads. And here's the most powerful part. When you speak after silence, your words carry weight. They are measured. They are intentional. They land like a hammer, not a clap. People remember it. People respect it. People notice it. That's the difference between reacting and leading. Now let's talk about common traps. Many people think silence means they can't defend themselves. Wrong. Silence is your defense. Your calm presence signals that you are not threatened. Aggressors hate it. They want a reaction. They want confirmation that you're unsettled. When you remain silent, you deny them that satisfaction. It's not about winning arguments. It's about keeping authority. Here's the practical exercise. In your next conflict, speak less. Observe more. Let silence work. Count to 3 before responding. Even 5, longer if needed. Watch how the dynamic shifts. Notice how the loudest person loses steam. Notice how others defer to the calm presence. You have a choice. You can feed the fire, or you can become the anchor. That's the key. Silence also prevents regret. When you react impulsively, you say things you shouldn't. You create problems you could avoid. When you stay calm, you protect your integrity and your reputation. Stillness leads. Say it again. Stillness leads. Conflict is inevitable. Noise is optional. Choose silence. Choose calm. Choose authority. This chapter gave you the framework to win respect without shouting. You've learned that stillness in the middle of chaos creates power. You've learned that silence is not absence, it is presence. Now you're ready to combine all of these disciplines. Silence, restraint, delayed response, calm under provocation, they all converge to a single point: strategic mastery of your presence. You've mastered conflict. Now it's time to master perception.
Defensiveness is a trap. It looks like strength, but it's weakness in disguise. Every time you justify your choices, you hand power to someone else. You invite debate. You invite doubt. You invite erosion of authority. That's the key. You have a choice. You can explain endlessly and defend endlessly, or you can decide, stand, silence. Decide, stand, silence. Say it again. Decide, stand, silence. Most people think defending decisions proves competence. It doesn't. Defending decisions signals uncertainty. It signals insecurity. It signals need for approval. You don't need their permission to act. You don't need their approval to stand by your choice. You don't need to justify your authority. It's not about being right. It's about being disciplined. Silent certainty closes arguments before they start. When you make a decision and hold it firmly, people sense your authority. They respect it or they accept it. Either way, the debate ends. Here's the discipline you must train. Decide swiftly.
Don't linger. Don't vacillate. Your mind must be certain. Your posture must match your certainty. Stand firmly. Once the decision is made, own it fully. No waffling, no second-guessing, no defending. Hold silence. Let the world respond. Observe. Analyze. Let others question in their minds, but you remain unshaken. Every word spent defending a decision weakens it. Every pause of silence strengthens it. Every explanation is an opportunity for someone to doubt. Every withheld explanation is an assertion of power. Decide, stand, silence. Say it again. Decide, stand, silence. Think of the leaders you respect. Notice how rarely they justify their choices. They announce, they act, they hold. They don't explain. They don't plead. They don't defend. And that's why their decisions are followed. Now understand this. Defensiveness is born from fear. Fear of criticism, fear of being wrong, fear of rejection. Silence replaces fear with authority. Certainty replaces doubt. Presence replaces chaos. You have a choice. React to criticism or remain steadfast. That's the key. When someone questions your decision, don't argue, don't justify, don't defend. Pause, breathe, maintain composure. Your silence signals confidence. Your calm signals mastery. Your stillness signals that your decision is final. Decide, stand, silence. This principle applies everywhere. In the workplace, don't justify your strategy. In relationships, don't explain why you made a choice. In negotiations, don't rationalize your offer. Every time you defend unnecessarily, you lose leverage. Every time you stand silently, you gain influence. It's not about arrogance, it's about authority. Let me give you a practical exercise. Next time someone challenges your decision, stop talking. Observe their reaction. Maintain your posture and expression. You don't need to convince them. You don't need to seek approval. You don't need to justify anything. Silence does the work for you. Notice how the dynamic changes. Questions diminish. Pushback weakens. Authority solidifies. Decide, stand, silence. Say it again. Decide, stand, silence. People often mistake silence for indecision. They do this because they are used to constant debate, constant justification, constant defense. You're not like them. You've learned restraint. You've learned control. You've learned the power of silent certainty. Every decision you defend chips away at your authority. Every decision you stand by without defending builds it. Decide, stand, silence. Now here's the final truth. You are responsible for your choices. You are accountable for your outcomes. You are not responsible for other people's opinions. Defending your decisions doesn't change reality. It only surrenders your power. Silence affirms reality. It preserves your authority. You've mastered the art of choosing. You've mastered the art of standing. You've mastered the art of silence. Now you're ready for the ultimate application, because all these skills converge in one arena: life under observation.
Leadership is not about being liked. Leadership is not about winning every argument. Leadership is about presence, authority, influence. And the sharpest tool in a leader's arsenal is silence. Followers talk to be heard. Followers explain to be understood. Followers argue to be accepted. Leaders don't. Approval is expensive. Say it again. Approval is expensive. You have a choice. You can chase applause, or you can command attention. Most people mistake noise for influence.
They think talking constantly signals leadership. It doesn't. Talking without purpose signals dependence. Dependence on others' validation, approval, and agreement. Leaders don't need approval. Leaders don't seek applause. Leaders let silence do the persuading. That's the key. Every moment you stay quiet in the right context, you make others reveal themselves. You make others chase your words, not the other way around. You make presence tangible. Silence builds authority because it demonstrates self-command. When people talk over you, argue with you, or try to challenge you, remaining silent shows that you are grounded, you are unmoved, you are strategic, you are in control. Approval is expensive. Followers spend their lives trying to earn it. Leaders know they don't need it. They know the cost is too high. Attention, energy, and emotional stability lost in exchange for fleeting affirmation. You don't need their permission to stay silent. You don't need validation to assert presence. You don't need constant agreement to influence outcomes. It's not about being liked, it's about being decisive. Here's the discipline you must cultivate. Observe before speaking. Listen. Take in body language, tone, and context. Let silence gather intelligence. Respond only when it counts. Let your words carry weight. Make your moments of speech valuable. Refuse to fill gaps with noise. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is a signal that you are grounded, deliberate, and confident. Leaders leverage silence to magnify influence. They don't need to explain their strategy. They don't need to justify decisions. They let the calm and the pause do the work. People are drawn to leaders who don't react instantly. People respect those who speak with intent. People follow those who are measured, calm, and strategic. You have a choice. React impulsively to be liked, or pause deliberately to be followed. That's the key. Think about it. When a leader walks into a room, what happens? People quiet themselves. They watch. They listen. They wait. Not because the leader is loud, not because the leader demands attention, because the leader commands it without words. That command comes from mastery of self, not mastery of others. Followers chase attention. Leaders make attention chase them. Approval is expensive. Leaders understand this cost. They protect their time, energy, and presence. They don't give it away carelessly. Followers spend a lifetime trading energy for fleeting affirmation. Leaders preserve it for impact. Now here's a practical exercise. Next time you are in a group discussion, resist the urge to fill silence. Notice how others shift, speak, or reveal their intentions when you pause. Notice the power that emerges from simply being present and quiet. The quiet leader does more in a moment of silence than a follower does in hours of talking. You've trained silence under provocation. You've trained silence in conflict. You've delayed responses. Now you see silence as a separator. Approval is expensive. Repeat it again. Approval is expensive. Silence elevates you above the noise. It distinguishes leaders from followers. It creates space where influence can operate without force. Followers crave recognition. Leaders create recognition by withholding themselves strategically. It's not arrogance, it's strategy, it's discipline. Leaders let silence persuade. Followers let chatter define them. Now, understand this. The ultimate leader is rarely the loudest. They are the most grounded, the most deliberate, the most self-controlled. They understand the value of their words, the cost of their attention, and the power of stillness.
you have learned that silence is not emptiness. Silence is a signal. Silence is authority. Silence is leadership. You've learned that presence, restraint, and deliberate speech build influence more than constant noise. Now take this to life. Observe before you speak. Delay before you react. Remain calm under pressure. Let silence enforce your authority. Followers will follow your words. Leaders will follow your presence. And you've learned how to be the latter. You've separated yourself. You've elevated your influence. You've mastered silent leadership. Now, as we move to the final chapter, understand this truth. The art of strategic silence is not about absence. It's about dominance.
Silence is not passive. Silence is not absence. Silence is power. When used intentionally, silence becomes intimidation. It doesn't scream. It doesn't threaten. It doesn't need to. Your calm is louder than their noise. Say it again. Your calm is louder than their noise. You have a choice. You can react, you can argue, you can explain, or you can remain unshaken. That's the key. Controlled silence creates psychological pressure. It forces others to confront themselves. It forces them to expose uncertainty. It forces them to fill the void, and often they fill it with weakness. This is intimidation without aggression, without confrontation, without raising your voice. You don't need their permission to create impact. You don't need validation to assert dominance. You don't need to move first. It's not about being threatening. It's about being unmovable. The world is full of people who mistake loudness for leadership, who confuse volume with authority, who assume reaction equals control. They are wrong. Every time someone tries to provoke you, to argue with you, to intimidate you with noise, your silence amplifies their insecurity. Your stillness magnifies their weakness. Your calm projects confidence they can't touch. Your calm is louder than their noise. Notice how it works in practice. In meetings, the loudest voices dominate attention, but the person who pauses, who waits, who observes, often sets the agenda silently. Others defer. Others adjust. Others hesitate. In negotiations, when the other side expects immediate responses, your pause creates tension. They imagine your decision. They project consequences. They fear overstepping. You don't move. They panic. In social dynamics, when someone attempts to push, provoke, or belittle, your refusal to react highlights their instability. The room sees who holds control. The room sees who is steady. Silence transforms mere composure into a psychological weapon. You have a choice. React emotionally and feed chaos, or maintain silence and command the room. That's the key. Controlled silence also forces projection. People assume your silence is about something. They assign meaning. They fear judgment. They speculate. And in doing so, they reveal their priorities, weaknesses, and intentions. Silence becomes a mirror reflecting the other's insecurities back at them, and you remain unaffected. Your calm is louder than their noise. Now, let's talk about personal boundaries. Some people mistake silence as submission. They think if you don't speak, you have no stance. They misread patience as weakness. Wrong. Silence asserts boundaries. It establishes limits. It enforces respect. Every pause you take communicates,
I am grounded. I am deliberate. I am not accessible to manipulation. It's not about avoidance, it's about authority. Here's the practical exercise. Next time someone confronts you aggressively, take a deep breath. Maintain eye contact. Let the silence stretch. Observe. Don't move. Notice how they shift. Notice how their energy escalates. Notice how they try to fill the vacuum. You are watching them reveal themselves. You are watching control return to you. That is intimidation without violence. That is influence without force. That is power without permission. You have a choice. Join the noise and become another voice in the chaos, or let silence speak for you. That's the key. Controlled silence is a masterclass in perception. It shapes how others see you. It establishes your position before you even speak. It protects your credibility while undermining theirs. Your calm is louder than their noise. Say it again. Your calm is louder than their noise. Now, understand this. Intimidation through silence is a discipline. It's a skill. It is cultivated through repeated practice. It is perfected by resisting the urge to justify, react, or fill gaps with words. The truly powerful do not announce their dominance. They project it quietly. And the room, the group, the opponent, they respond. They defer. They hesitate. They reveal themselves. You've mastered reaction. You've mastered delayed response. You've mastered silence in conflict. Now you master silent intimidation. Use it responsibly. Use it strategically. Use it deliberately. Because when used correctly, silence reshapes the environment. Silence becomes your presence. Silence becomes your authority. Silence becomes your power. Your calm is louder than their noise. You've learned the most advanced level of strategic silence. Now you're ready to consolidate all your mastery into life-changing influence.
Negotiation is not about talking more. It's not about convincing harder. It's about leverage, influence, control. And silence is your greatest leverage. Most people fear silence. They think gaps in conversation are uncomfortable. They panic. They fill the space with words. That's the trap. Wait, watch, win. Say it again. Wait, watch, win. You have a choice. You can rush to respond hoping to impress, or you can pause, observe, and let silence force the outcome in your favor. The first to break silence almost always concedes, almost always reveals intentions, almost always gives something away. That's the key. Think about it. In negotiations, every word you speak has cost. Every reaction you give can weaken your position. Every explanation you offer can be used against you. Silence is free. Silence protects you. Silence empowers you. Wait, watch, win. Now, here's how it works in practice. You present your offer or stance. You stop. You say nothing more. You resist clarifying, elaborating, or defending. Notice how the other party reacts. Notice how tension grows. Notice their attempts to fill the void. They will justify. They will rationalize. They will negotiate against themselves. This is leverage. Silence in negotiation is not passive. It is deliberate. It is strategic. It signals confidence, composure, and control.
You don't need their permission to pause. You don't need validation to withhold words. You don't need to explain your reasoning to maintain power. It's not about being aggressive. It's about being deliberate. Here's the psychological truth. Humans are uncomfortable with empty space. They fear uncertainty. They crave closure. Silence exploits that instinct. Silence forces concessions without asking. Silence shifts the pressure to them. Wait, watch, win. Repeat it again. Wait, watch, win. Now, let's get practical. When negotiating salary, terms, or agreements, state your position clearly. Then stop. Let them speak. Let them react. Do not justify. Do not explain. When negotiating in business or personal contexts, resist the urge to clarify. Resist the urge to reassure. Resist the urge to speak first. The moment you break silence unnecessarily, you hand over power. The moment you speak to ease discomfort, you invite compromise. The moment you react impulsively, you weaken leverage. You have a choice. React to urgency, or let silence dictate the pace. That's the key. Skilled negotiators know silence communicates more than words ever can. It conveys confidence. It conveys patience. It conveys authority. Others interpret it as certainty. Others interpret it as strength. Others interpret it as dominance. Wait, watch, win. Say it again. Wait, watch, win. Now, here's the advanced application. Combine silence with deliberate body language. Maintain steady eye contact. Sit or stand relaxed but confident. Let posture reinforce your words, or the lack of them. Even when you finally speak, your words will land heavier. Measured words after silence carry weight. People remember them. They respond to them. This is how deals are won. Not by chatter, not by pleading, not by over-explaining. Silence is not weakness. Silence is command. Silence is leverage. You've mastered reaction. You've mastered delayed responses. You've mastered silence in conflict. Now apply it to negotiation. Turn pause into power. Turn stillness into leverage. Turn restraint into results. Wait, watch, win. You have a choice. Fill the space and lose authority, or maintain silence and win influence. That's the final lesson. Silence is not absence. Silence is presence. Silence is authority. Silence is power. Wait, watch, win. And with this discipline, you control outcomes without asking, without forcing, without surrendering your composure. You've learned the full spectrum of strategic silence, leverage, restraint, calm, delayed response, silent intimidation, leadership through presence, and now negotiation mastery. You've become the architect of influence. You've become the master of presence. You've become a practitioner of the most subtle and powerful force in human interaction, strategic silence. You are ready to step into the world and apply it with authority.
Silence is your shield. Silence is your defense. Silence is your armor. Every word spoken has a cost. Every reaction gives away energy. Every explanation exposes vulnerability. You have a choice. You can spill your thoughts at every provocation, or you can hold your silence and protect your inner world. Guard your inner world. Say it again. Guard your inner world. Life is full of triggers. People test boundaries. People push buttons. People provoke responses to see what they can take from you. Silence is the ultimate response. It does not give away emotion. It does not surrender energy. It does not invite manipulation. Guard your inner world. Not every thought deserves expression. Not every feeling requires validation. Not every reaction justifies attention. You don't need their permission to remain composed. You don't need approval to withhold commentary. You don't need to explain your emotional restraint. It's not about being distant. It's about being disciplined. Here's the first layer of emotional armor: observation. Observe before responding. Notice intentions behind words. Notice the emotional triggers they set for you. When you act instantly, you give away control. When you speak without strategy, you hand over your power. When you react emotionally, you invite chaos. Silence interrupts this cycle. It protects your energy. It maintains your clarity. It preserves your integrity. Guard your inner world. Next layer: selective engagement. You have a choice in every interaction. Engage only when it aligns with your purpose. Engage only when it preserves your energy. Engage only when it strengthens your position. Everything else, let it pass. The loud criticism, the petty provocation, the attempts to drag you into needless drama, ignore it. Let silence do the work. It's not about avoidance, it's about authority. When people attempt to unsettle you, they expect a reaction. They expect noise. They expect validation of their power. You don't give it. You stay grounded. You stay quiet. You remain unshaken. Guard your inner world. Now, layer 3, internal dialogue. Silence doesn't just protect you externally, it shields you internally. Your thoughts are not a public forum. Your feelings do not need external approval. Your energy does not require constant justification. By cultivating silence, you create a fortress inside your mind, a space where clarity reigns, a space where strategy guides action, a space where emotion does not dictate behavior. Guard your inner world. Say it again. Guard your inner world. Practical exercise. Next time someone triggers anger, anxiety, or insecurity, pause, breathe, observe without reacting. Let silence absorb the energy instead of expelling it. Notice the shift. Notice how the tension bounces back to the instigator. Notice how your composure strengthens your position. Silence does not mean weakness. Silence does not mean submission. Silence means control. You have a choice. React emotionally and deplete yourself, or remain silent and reinforce your armor. That's the key. Emotional armor is also about conserving energy for decisions that matter. Every unnecessary argument, every unneeded explanation, every fleeting reaction steals your focus. Silence preserves it. Silence prioritizes it. Silence protects it. Guard your inner world. Layer 4, projection of strength. When you remain silent under pressure, others perceive power. They see composure. They see unshakable presence. They see authority that doesn't need to prove itself. Your calm becomes contagious. Your silence becomes magnetic. Your restraint commands respect. It's not about being cold. It's about being controlled. Now consider life outside conflict. Social media, gossip, complaints, unnecessary debates. Every platform where opinions swarm can drain energy. Every environment with constant noise can erode focus. Silence is your shield here, too. You do not need to engage. You do not need to justify. You do not need to participate. Guard your inner world. Final layer, reflection and reset. Silence allows space for clarity. Silence allows space for strategy. Silence allows space for self-awareness. Every pause you take is a reset.
Every word you withhold is energy preserved. Every moment of calm is armor strengthened. Guard your inner world. Repeat one last time. Guard your inner world. You've learned silence as leverage, silence as power, silence as intimidation, silence as leadership, and now silence as emotional armor. You are no longer at the mercy of words, triggers, or opinions. You are no longer reactive. You are no longer drained. You are disciplined. You are composed. You are armored. The world will try to test this. People will provoke. People will challenge. You have a choice. Break, react, deplete, or remain silent, protect, preserve, win. Guard your inner world. Now, with your emotional armor intact, you are ready to wield the most advanced form of strategic silence, influence.
Most people live in constant explanation. They justify, they clarify, they defend. They beg to be understood. And in doing so, they weaken themselves. Results speak. Say it again. Results speak. You have a choice. You can spend your energy convincing everyone why you did what you did, or you can focus on executing, on producing, on delivering results that cannot be argued with. That's the key. Explanations are emotional leaks. Every time you justify yourself, you hand over power. Every time you clarify intentions, you invite debate. Every time you seek approval, you invite judgment. Strong people don't live in that trap. Strong people act first. Strong people produce outcomes. Strong people let the work speak for them. Results speak. Think about it. A great leader doesn't spend the day explaining strategy. They implement. They execute. They let achievements validate their decisions. A great entrepreneur doesn't justify every choice to their team, their peers, or their critics. They take decisive steps. They adjust silently. They let growth prove their methods. A great partner doesn't argue to be understood. They act. They contribute. They demonstrate value without endless conversation. Every word spent on explanation is energy stolen from action. Every sentence trying to clarify intentions is a distraction from results. Every appeal to understanding is a compromise of influence. Results speak. You don't need their permission to act. You don't need validation to make decisions. You don't need consensus to take the first step. It's not about being liked. It's about being effective. Here's the first principle. Act decisively. When faced with a decision, make it. Do not linger over whether others will understand. Do not agonize over how they will interpret it. Execute, deliver, move. The second principle, resist over-clarifying. Once action is taken, silence often strengthens your position. The less you explain, the more curiosity builds. The more mystery you maintain, the more influence you hold. The third principle, let results validate your choices. When the outcomes appear, they speak louder than any justification ever could. Your success becomes evidence. Your execution becomes credibility. Your actions become authority. Results speak. Repeat it again. Results speak. Let's get practical. Next time you feel the urge to explain yourself, pause. Ask yourself, does this advance my position? Ask yourself, does this preserve my energy? Ask yourself, will this create results? If the answer is no, stay silent. Silence here is not weakness. Silence here is discipline. Silence here is strength. You have a choice. React to criticism with justification, or focus on outcomes and let them speak. That's the key. Strong people understand a critical truth. People rarely understand in advance. They only recognize after action. They only appreciate after results. They only validate after performance. When you stop trying to be understood, you free yourself.
You focus energy where it matters. You protect your authority. You maintain momentum. It's not arrogance. It's strategy. It's discipline. It's control. Results speak. Say it again. Results speak. Explanations are optional. Action is required. Approval is optional. Execution is required. Understanding is optional. Impact is required. Your time, energy, and attention are precious. Spend them producing. Spend them achieving. Spend them mastering influence. Not just talking, not just defending, not just clarifying. Results speak. Now, here's the advanced application. When you act without explanation, two things happen. Others adjust to your tempo. Others respect your authority because it is demonstrated, not debated. The more you resist the urge to justify, the more your presence is felt. The more your silence speaks, the louder your authority becomes. You have practiced silence under provocation. You have mastered delayed responses. You have wielded silence in negotiation. You have built emotional armor. Now, stop trying to be understood. Stop giving away energy in vain attempts at validation. Stop explaining when action communicates far more. Results speak. Repeated one final time. Results speak. The world does not reward endless explanations. The world rewards those who act, achieve, and let outcomes validate them. You are no longer reactive. You are no longer reliant on others' comprehension. You are focused. You are disciplined. You are empowered. You have learned the final transformative level of strategic silence. Use words sparingly. Use action deliberately. Let results define your influence. You have mastered silence as leverage, silence as authority, silence as intimidation, silence as armor, and now silence as action without apology. Your power is undeniable. Your influence is undeniable. Your results are undeniable.
Confidence is visible, but not always loud. Confidence is felt, but not always broadcast. Confidence does not demand attention. Fake confidence does. Fake confidence shouts. Fake confidence over-explains. Fake confidence panics at silence. Noise is insecurity. Say it again. Noise is insecurity. You have a choice. You can mirror the noise of the insecure. You can try to out-talk, out-explain, or outperform in volume. Or you can remain calm, composed, and silent. That's the key. Silence exposes pretenders. Silence unmasks the unsteady. Silence reveals weakness where words attempt to hide it. Real confidence does not beg for validation. Real confidence does not seek permission. Real confidence does not need a witness to prove it exists. Noise is insecurity. Consider this. In meetings, negotiations, or conversations, the loudest voice often believes it's strongest. The person who must dominate the room is the one most afraid of losing control. The person who cannot pause is the one most dependent on approval. True authority, true power, true confidence waits. True power observes. True power lets silence speak. Noise is insecurity. Now, here's the practical lesson. When someone projects overconfidence, loud claims, exaggerated statements, incessant interruptions, do not react immediately. Do not feel compelled to match volume. Do not fill silence with rebuttals. Observe. Breathe. Wait. Silence does something words cannot. It creates imbalance. It forces the other person to confront their own neediness. It makes them stumble. It makes them reveal cracks in their facade. Noise is insecurity. Say it again. Noise is insecurity. You have a choice.
You can mirror the noise of the insecure. You can try to out-talk, out-explain, or outperform in volume. Or you can remain calm, composed, and silent. That's the key. Silence exposes pretenders. Silence unmasks the unsteady. Silence reveals weakness where words attempt to hide it. Real confidence does not beg for validation. Real confidence does not seek permission. Real confidence does not need a witness to prove it exists. Noise is insecurity. Think about leaders you respect. Notice how they speak. Notice how they listen. Notice the weight of their words when they finally choose to speak. Their silence holds authority. Their composure holds influence. Their calm communicates certainty that others cannot dispute. Fake confidence cannot replicate this. Fake confidence panics when ignored. Fake confidence escalates when challenged. Fake confidence crumbles when observed in stillness. Noise is insecurity. Practical exercise. Next time someone projects overconfidence, pause. Maintain presence without responding immediately. Let silence stretch. Observe reactions. Notice the cracks. Notice the inconsistencies. Notice the insecurity revealed. You do not need to point it out. You do not need to correct it. You do not need to over-explain. Noise is insecurity. Your silence will do the work. This applies to professional environments, social settings, and personal interactions. The louder someone is about their abilities, the more likely they need validation. The calmer you are, the more your confidence is recognized. It's not arrogance, it's discipline, it's strategy, it's influence. You have a choice. Join the noise and deplete your energy, or remain silent and observe, letting others reveal themselves. That's the key. Remember, every time you maintain composure under provocation, you gain leverage. Every time you resist explaining unnecessarily, you conserve energy. Every time you pause while others panic, you demonstrate authority. Noise is insecurity. Now, layer in advanced awareness. Fake confidence reacts to silence. Fake confidence overcompensates in volume. Fake confidence tries to dominate the empty spaces. Your silence exposes this naturally. No confrontation needed. No argument needed. No aggression needed. You simply remain unshaken. You simply observe. You simply let the truth emerge. Noise is insecurity. And this is the transformation. You no longer chase approval. You no longer react to pretension. You no longer validate others' self-perception. You act. You speak when necessary. You influence without unnecessary words. You have mastered the art of silence as power, as leverage, as intimidation, as armor, as action, and now as a lens to see real confidence from fake. Noise is insecurity. Repeat one final time. Noise is insecurity. This is the discipline of strategic silence at its highest level. Recognize weakness without confrontation. Maintain composure under provocation. Project authority through calm, and let results, presence, and silence do the talking. You are no longer deceived by loudness. You are no longer distracted by theatrics. You are focused. You are powerful. You are confident.
Every word you speak carries weight, but not every word needs to be spoken. In fact, the fewer you use, the heavier they become. Say it once. Repeat it. Say it once. You have a choice. You can fill every moment with talk, justification, and commentary, or you can choose restraint. You can speak with intention. You can let silence amplify your impact. That's the key.
Silence transforms ordinary statements into commands. It gives authority to what might otherwise be ignored. It makes your opinions respected, your instructions followed, and your presence acknowledged. When you constantly speak, words lose their value. When you flood conversations, attention fragments. When you over-explain, power is diluted. Say it once. Think about it. The most effective leaders rarely repeat themselves unnecessarily. They make a point. They deliver an instruction. Then they allow silence to do the work. Silence enforces compliance. Silence communicates certainty. Silence signals strength. Say it once. You don't need to shout to be heard. You don't need to justify to be understood. You don't need to argue to be taken seriously. It's not about volume. It's about discipline. Every conversation is an opportunity to assert authority. Every exchange is a test of restraint. Every interaction can elevate or erode your presence. Speak too much, you diminish your authority. Speak sparingly, you create gravity. Speak deliberately, you command respect. Say it once. Practical application. Next time you need to deliver a statement, whether in a meeting, a negotiation, or a personal conversation, follow this pattern. Prepare your words carefully. Speak with clarity and confidence. Stop. Wait. Observe reactions. The pause is your tool. The silence after your statement amplifies it. It turns your words into actions. Say it once. Leaders understand this instinctively. A manager who gives one clear instruction avoids repeated interruptions. A negotiator who makes one concise offer gains psychological leverage. A parent who sets a rule without over-explaining establishes authority. Notice the difference. Those who repeat themselves constantly appear uncertain. Those who speak once and hold silence project certainty. The same principle applies to social dynamics, professional contexts, and personal relationships. Say it once. You have a choice. Fill the room with endless talk or allow silence to make your words final. Fill the day with constant explanation or let restraint magnify impact. React to every comment or respond selectively and deliberately. That's the key. Here's the psychological effect. When you stop speaking after making a statement, others fill the silence. They project meaning into your words. They weigh the intention. They respect the authority behind the restraint. Noise loses. Silence wins. Say it once. Your energy is also preserved. Every word you withhold is a resource saved. Every pause you maintain strengthens mental clarity. Every silence you honor increases your influence. It's not avoidance, it's strategy, it's discipline, it's power. The challenge? Practice selective speech daily. Speak when it matters. Speak once. Hold silence. Observe responses. Adjust only when necessary. This trains people to listen. This trains people to respect boundaries. This trains people to value your presence. Say it once. Remember, repetition without value diminishes authority. Redundant clarification invites doubt. Over-explanation drains energy and influence. Silence preserves impact. Silence magnifies clarity. Silence makes your words final. You have seen silence used as leverage, armor, intimidation, negotiation, and influence. Now, you see silence as amplification. Your words no longer compete with noise. Your words no longer dilute your presence. Your words now command attention. Say it once. Repeat one last time. Say it once. The world responds to action, presence, and certainty. Your silence makes statements unforgettable. Your restraint elevates authority. Your words carry the weight of finality. You have a choice. Talk endlessly and risk dilution, or speak once, pause, and let silence enforce your message. That's the ultimate power of strategic silence. Leadership is not about constant commentary. Leadership is not about narrating every decision. Leadership is not about proving knowledge or control at all times. Let them show you. Say it again. Let them show you. You have a choice. You can micromanage, over-explain, and control every outcome. Or you can step back, remain silent, and observe. That's the key. Silence in leadership is a tool. Silence lets others demonstrate their capabilities. Silence exposes those who rely on your hand-holding. Silence elevates those ready to step up. Leaders who fill every space with instructions stifle growth. They prevent initiative. They hide weaknesses beneath their own noise. They become indispensable only because others cannot act without constant guidance. Let them show you. Observe carefully. Who waits for direction? Who acts independently? Who rises to challenges without prompting? This is the reality. Silence in leadership reveals truth. It separates the capable from the dependent. It clarifies who contributes and who obstructs. It identifies talent and exposes mediocrity. Let them show you. You don't need to constantly praise or criticize. You don't need to give instructions at every step. You don't need to justify your presence. It's not about approval. It's about observation. When you pause and allow space, you create accountability. You create responsibility. You create the opportunity for others to shine or falter. Let them show you. Here's how you apply it. Assign responsibility. Step back. Observe actions without interference. Notice the behavior. Notice the initiative. Notice the competence or lack thereof. Silence communicates confidence in your team. Silence communicates trust. Silence communicates authority. The quieter you are, the more space others have to perform. The quieter you are, the more your presence as a leader is felt. The quieter you are, the more mistakes become visible and lessons emerge. Let them show you. Think of legendary leaders. They rarely explained every move. They rarely dictated every outcome. They created structures, set standards, and then observed. Their silence was not passivity. It was power. It was strategy. It was discipline. Let them show you. The key principle: leadership through observation is more effective than leadership through narration. By stepping back, you create natural accountability. You allow talent to rise. You allow weaknesses to surface. You have a choice. Fill every conversation with your own voice, or remain silent, allowing others to reveal their potential or their limitations. That's the key. Silence also protects your authority. Constant commentary can dilute influence. Continuous explanation can create dependence. By speaking selectively, you preserve power and respect. Let them show you. Now, a challenge for real-world application. The next time your team faces a problem, resist the urge to immediately intervene. Allow them to respond. Allow them to make mistakes. Allow them to demonstrate initiative. You will notice patterns. You will recognize talent. You will build stronger systems without overmanaging. Silence is not passive. Silence is intentional. Silence is strategic. You have practiced silence as leverage, armor, negotiation, and authority. Now you practice silence as a leader, to observe, to empower, to expose. Let them show you. Say it one more time. Let them show you. Leadership is not about constant motion. Leadership is about selective action.
Leadership is about observation. Leadership is about creating conditions where truth emerges naturally. Let them show you. When you master this, you empower others. You conserve energy. You reinforce authority. You allow results to speak louder than instructions. It's not arrogance, it's strategy. It's discipline. It's influence. You have a choice. Dominate every conversation, directive, and action, or step back, observe, and let silence reveal what words cannot. That's the ultimate practice of leadership.
Discipline is not about doing more. Discipline is about controlling impulses. Discipline is about mastering restraint. Master yourself first. Say it again. Master yourself first. You have a choice. You can react instantly to every comment, every provocation, every temptation. Or you can pause, breathe, and act deliberately. That's the key. Holding back is not weakness. Holding back is strategy. Holding back is power. Every moment you resist unnecessary speech, impulsive reaction, or emotional outburst, you strengthen self-command. Every pause you honor builds authority. Every silence you maintain sharpens influence. Master yourself first. Consider this. Unrestrained people burn energy. They speak without thinking. They react without strategy. They display emotions without discipline. Controlled people conserve energy. They speak selectively. They act deliberately. They influence through presence, not volume. Master yourself first. Practical application. When provoked, pause. Observe the situation fully before responding. Speak or act only when necessary and effective. Restraint is not passive. Restraint is intentional. Restraint is your signal of mastery. Master yourself first. Why is this so powerful? Humans respect control. Humans fear unpredictability. Humans notice the calm person, while the reactive ones draw attention to themselves and reveal weakness. When you hold back, you create influence without force. You create authority without confrontation. You create respect without words. Master yourself first. This applies to every aspect of life. In conversations, do not over-explain. In negotiations, do not rush to fill silence. In conflict, do not respond to every jab. In leadership, do not over-direct or over-manage. Every action you refrain from amplifies your presence. Every word you withhold increases the weight of the words you do speak. Every pause you maintain creates space for observation, strategy, and leverage. Master yourself first. Holding back also protects your energy. Overreaction leads to regret. Over-talking leads to dilution. Over-explaining leads to dependency and loss of authority. Your silence preserves clarity. Your restraint preserves focus. Your discipline preserves influence. Master yourself first. Let's address fear. Many confuse holding back with weakness. Many fear others will see silence as submission. Many believe immediate reaction signals strength. Wrong. Immediate reaction signals dependency. Immediate reaction signals lack of control. Immediate reaction signals neediness. Controlled restraint signals mastery. Controlled restraint signals authority. Controlled restraint signals strategic power. Master yourself first. Exercise. The next time you are tempted to speak out of anger, fear, or insecurity, pause. Observe your thoughts. Ask yourself, is this necessary? Is this deliberate? Does this serve my authority? Hold back when you can. Engage when you must. Master yourself first. Silence trains observation. Silence trains patience. Silence trains influence.
Every person who cannot restrain themselves becomes predictable. Every person who cannot control impulses becomes manipulable. Every person who cannot hold back loses authority. You are different. You have learned the value of silence. You have practiced strategic patience. You have experienced the power of holding back. Master yourself first. The transformation is clear. Impulse control becomes strength. Restraint becomes influence. Silence becomes authority. You have a choice. React now and expend energy, or hold back, observe, and act decisively. That's the key. Repeat once more. Master yourself first. This is not about personality. This is about discipline. This is about strategy. This is about transformation. Your silence is no longer emptiness. Your restraint is no longer indecision. Your control is no longer passive. You act intentionally. You influence effectively. You lead strategically. You hold back because you are strong. You hold back because you are deliberate. You hold back because you are in command.
Presence is not declared. Presence is not shown with words, gestures, or noise. Presence is felt. Still waters run deep. Say it again. Still waters run deep. You have a choice. You can fill every room with chatter, explanation, and commentary. Or you can choose silence, allowing your presence to speak volumes. That's the key. True presence is psychological. It is gravity. It is influence without effort. When you remain calm and silent, others notice. They observe your energy. They measure your composure. They sense authority. Still waters run deep. The loud, the frantic, and the overly eager command attention for a moment, but rarely respect. Noise draws eyes, but rarely inspires trust. Words without pause dilute influence. Silence commands respect. Silence creates authority. Silence magnifies the weight of your actions. Still waters run deep. Consider this. When entering a room, people immediately detect energy. Are you reactive or composed? Are you talkative or reserved? Are you driven by impulses or guided by deliberate intent? Your quiet communicates strength. Your calm signals mastery. Your restraint demonstrates control. Still waters run deep. Presence is amplified by strategic silence. Leaders, negotiators, and influential figures understand this instinctively. They speak with precision, they act with intention, and they allow silence to fill the gaps. Every pause is a tool. Every withheld comment is a statement. Every measured action becomes more potent. Still waters run deep. Practical steps to build unshakable presence. Pause before responding. Let others fill silence with their words. Limit unnecessary explanation. Speak only when your words add value. Observe carefully. Notice reactions. Read intentions. Measure impact. These steps create a magnetic presence. People lean in. People listen. People respect without coercion. Still waters run deep. Your presence is reinforced through consistency. Silence is not occasional, it is habitual. Composure becomes your default state. Your energy becomes steady, predictable, and commanding. It's not about arrogance, it's about discipline. It's not about showing off, it's about holding power quietly. Still waters run deep. Let's discuss the psychological effect. When you remain silent while others talk,
you gain insight. When you maintain calm under provocation, others reveal weakness. When you speak deliberately, your words carry authority. Noise creates attention but rarely influence. Silence creates influence and lasting impact. Silence builds presence that cannot be ignored. Still waters run deep. Apply this in daily life. In meetings, speak after observation, not reaction. In negotiations, allow silence to compel concessions. In personal interactions, let calm energy establish leadership. Your presence becomes unshakable not through force, but through controlled stillness. Your aura becomes magnetic not through noise, but through disciplined silence. Your influence becomes undeniable because you act with intention, not urgency. Still waters run deep. Presence is reinforced when combined with action. Silent leaders do not merely observe, they act decisively. Silent leaders do not merely withhold, they communicate strategically. Silent leaders do not merely exist, they shape outcomes effortlessly. Every measured action, every deliberate pause, every strategic silence reinforces unshakable presence. You have a choice. Fill space with chatter and risk dilution. Or hold back, observe, and let silence amplify your presence. That's the key. Repeat once more. Still waters run deep. Your silence is not emptiness, it is depth. Your quiet is not indecision, it is authority. Your restraint is not weakness, it is unshakable presence. People notice your composure. People respect your consistency. People value your deliberate speech. You have mastered the art of strategic silence. You have built authority through restraint. You have created presence through calm.
Every word carries weight. Every sentence has consequences. Every utterance can either create authority or erode it. Silence until it matters. Say it again. Silence until it matters. You have a choice. You can speak impulsively, reacting to every comment, every slight, every opportunity to prove yourself. Or you can wait, measure, and speak only when your words shift outcomes. That's the key. Speaking for attention is noise. Speaking to justify is weakness. Speaking without strategy is wasted energy. Powerful people speak strategically. Powerful people speak intentionally. Powerful people speak to create impact, not to fill space. Silence until it matters. Let's analyze why this matters. Immediate words rarely carry authority. The first speaker in conflict often loses leverage. The one who fills silence demonstrates urgency and neediness. But the one who waits creates anticipation. The one who measures before speaking projects confidence. The one who speaks selectively amplifies influence. Silence until it matters. Practical steps to master this discipline. Pause before responding. Breathe, observe, and measure impact. Filter every word. Ask yourself, does this move the outcome or just emotions? Act with decisiveness when speaking. Make it count. Make it final. Your words now carry weight. Your silence commands attention. Your presence becomes undeniable. Silence until it matters. Consider negotiations. Those who talk first often concede. Those who rush explanations lose leverage. Those who overshare weaken position. The strategic speaker waits. The strategic speaker listens. The strategic speaker delivers decisive statements that shift the game. Silence until it matters. In leadership, over-explaining diminishes authority. Constant commentary confuses teams.
Reacting impulsively erodes trust. Measured speech inspires action. Deliberate communication motivates follow-through. Strategic words shape culture, influence decisions, and enforce standards. Silence until it matters. In personal interactions, respond with intention, not reflex. Choose timing over impulse. Allow your words to define situations, not merely decorate them. Your restraint makes your words final. Your pause makes your statements memorable. Your strategic silence amplifies impact beyond what noise ever could. Silence until it matters. Repetition strengthens the principle. If it doesn't add power, don't say it. If it doesn't move outcomes, remain silent. If it doesn't change the game, pause. Every unnecessary word reduces influence. Every untimely comment diminishes respect. Every unmeasured reaction undermines authority. You have a choice. Flood the space with words and risk being forgotten, or speak with precision and change the trajectory of outcomes. That's the key. Your discipline is now evident. Your mastery of silence defines your authority. Your words, when used, move mountains because they are scarce and deliberate. Silence until it matters. Exercise. Before speaking in any high-stakes situation, pause. Ask yourself, will this move the outcome? Will this create influence? Will this matter in the long run? Speak only when the answer is yes. Your words become rare. Your impact becomes permanent. Your presence becomes commanding. Silence until it matters. Let's conclude the lesson. Noise is cheap. Words are expensive. Use them with intention. Speak to influence, not to impress. Speak to lead, not to react. Speak to create change, not to fill silence. Silence until it matters. This is not about personality. This is not about intimidation. This is about discipline. This is about strategy. This is about transformation. You have mastered the art of strategic silence. You have held back when needed. You have allowed others to reveal weakness, misstep, and need. You have cultivated unshakable presence. Now your words carry power. Now your actions carry authority. Now your silence magnifies every statement you make. Silence until it matters. Wait, watch, speak deliberately, influence strategically, win decisively. Change the game. You have learned the ultimate truth of power. It is not the loudest who lead. It is the one who speaks only when it changes the game. This is the final word. This is the ultimate discipline. This is your path to mastery.
You've learned one truth that changes everything. Power doesn't shout. Power waits. Every time you hold your tongue, you gain ground. Every time you don't react, you reclaim control. Every time you let silence stretch, others reveal who they are. This is not passivity. This is precision. From today forward, stop explaining. Stop reacting. Stop filling the silence out of fear. Let your calm speak. Let your restraint intimidate. Let your silence force the world to adjust to you. Your challenge is simple. For the next 7 days, say less, but mean more. Because once you master strategic silence, you don't chase power.